Who doesn't love a good heart-racing, bone-chilling, scary movie? I know, I do. Even though I don't know why, because I hate being scared. However, not all horror movies can have a successful outcome. In fact, that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Hey, what's up? Welcome back to Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your host for today, Lindsay Ivan. You can also find me on the channel Most Amazing Top 10. Now, today I will be bringing you the top 5 worst horror movies from the 90s. Now, the 90s were a good time. We had the birth of the internet and the game Crazy Bones. Do any of you 90s kids remember those? Cause I do. Well, anyways, during this era there were some, well, questionable films that were made and aired. So let's dive on in and discuss these terrible movies. Starting off at number 5, we have The Night of the Dribbler, a Canadian scary basketball film. Now, this movie was filmed in 1990, but it wasn't aired until 2009, and I don't know why they decided to air it. They should have just, kept it hidden away. Basically, this film is about a man wearing a basketball mask, which looks more like a jack-o'-lantern on his head than a basketball. But anyways, this man then goes around and harms the players on a school's basketball team. He never kills them, just maims them so they can no longer play. Like, how Canadian is that? Like, no, we're not gonna kill off any of the players, no, we're just gonna harm them just a little. It's so Canadian. Now, there is absolutely nothing scary about this film. What's scary is how it still managed to get a 1-star review on Rotten Tomatoes, or the fact that the basketball players are wearing really short shorts. So this film has many issues. Let's start off with the fact that there is one actor that plays 3 different characters. I have no clue why they decided to do this. Was the budget really that low? Because clearly you can tell that it's the same actor, but just with like different hairstyles, or like they added a mustache on him. Now, maybe this was done intentionally, probably like to get some laughs, but his acting is just straight up cringy. Now, we have the way that these basketball players get injured. The first being a player that gets his hands cut off when he goes to dunk. And it's so funny how they do this. Like, it literally looks like they had a prop hands and they just threw them up in the air. Like, there was no blood, no nothing. And then later on you can see the actor in a hospital bed with his hands wrapped up. Like, they didn't even try and make it seem like his hands were gone. They literally just wrapped it up. But you can still see that it's attached. It makes no sense. Then you have the basketball player that gets injured by a basketball bomb, which again doesn't kill him, just leaves him charred and dizzy. Moving on from that, you also have the terrible editing and out of place cartoon animation that is woven throughout the film. It feels so out of place and it's just poorly done. Furthermore, the plot of this movie really never goes anywhere. And like I said before, it's more laughable than scary. Next, in our 4th spot, we have the film The Crawlers, or Contamination 7, or Troll 3. They have 3 different movie titles. I don't know why, it's like they couldn't make up their mind, who knows. This is a 1993 horror movie all about killer radioactive tree roots. Yes, you heard me correctly. The tree roots are radioactive and are coming out of the ground and killing citizens in this town. Now, this is a result of people dumping radioactive waste. However, in the end, it shows that they are simply just yellow barrels of radioactive waste that are sealed. It's not even like they were dumping the substance on the ground, so it doesn't really make any sense since it was like contained. But anyway, this movie is just filled with plot holes like that one. Then you also see the tree roots that don't even look like tree roots, more like weird brown tentacles. And let's not forget about the terrible POV shots from the roots looking at the people's legs. The editing in this film is also really poorly done. You have weird shots such as the sky spiraling as one of the characters is getting attacked by the terrifying roots. Terrifying. Which, this scene just made me feel so dizzy. Then you have the fact that they left in takes of actors stumbling over their lines, or the fact that this movie had the same events occurring all throughout it. Like, there wasn't a climax to the story at all, it was just the same events happening throughout the film. And again, it wasn't scary at all. The tree roots aren't scary, they're just poorly made. Moving on from number 3, we have the nymphoid Barbarian in Dinosaur Hell. What a title, super long. This 1990s movie, despite its name, had no dinosaurs in it at all. There are a bunch of weird, terribly made creatures, but they're definitely not dinosaurs. Now, this movie takes place in a post-Armageddon world, where one young girl fights for survival. Now this movie literally looks like it was shot in someone's backyard ravine or like a hiking trail, and the costumes they wore looked like Halloween costumes. And clearly they had to make the female character always in something scandalous to attract more viewers. Throughout the movie, the lead female character is constantly attacked by lizard men or barbarians. It's so continuous and boring, like she's constantly getting caught and fighting them, and then she runs away and the same thing happens. It just repeats. In fact, the action fight sequences are not executed well at all. It's so painfully fake looking that it hurts me just watching the sequences. Again, there is nothing scary about this film. The creatures are clearly stop motion animated and not even scary looking. In fact, when the creatures are introduced in the film, they look so out of place that it's laughable. For example, there's a scene where the actors are screaming at something and then you see a shot of the creature flapping its wings in the sky, but it's so bad. None of the creatures are realistic looking at all. Lastly, this movie just feels like it drags on way too long, repeating the same events. In our next spot, we have Demon Cop. Demon Cop is a 1990 film, which again has a misleading title as it has nothing to do with a demon or a cop. Instead, it's about a probation officer who ends up getting shot, and then when he gets a blood transfusion, somehow the blood was tainted and he turns into a werewolf type monster. This creature then goes around killing individuals and especially targets gang members. Now this creature is hilarious, the acting is terrible, and in fact his voice sounds like a raspy cookie monster, or someone trying to impersonate Batman and just doing a terrible job at it. Again, I understand that the editing technology back in the 90s wasn't as advanced as it is now, but the film editing is just all over the place. Like, it's very incoherent and it doesn't cut together well at all. There are also weird insert shots like close-up of eyes or the werewolf's teeth or mouths talking. Then you have lots of voiceovers that's used throughout the film for lots of the characters. But it does not stop there. You also have a weird subplot about experimentation that the Nazis were doing. It's just so out of place. The movie is also filled with terrible dialogue. For example, there is one scene where the character that is a psychic is talking to the werewolf man. Now the psychic character is in a wheelchair and says the line, "I'm crippled and I'm alive," in which the werewolf man responds, "So am I." Like, this is just one example of how terrible the dialogue is. Now the ending is quite hilarious. It ends with a weird gun shooting sequence where the werewolf man is just flailing his arms back and forth while getting shot at. Great acting! I mean, maybe I should take some notes from that. And then my favorite part of all time is the last sequence. This sequence has a freeze frame of a woman foaming at her mouth. While doing so, it just zooms into her mouth and teeth while her face gets stretched and widened on the screen. Like, it's my favorite part. It's like so random and hilarious, and this movie is, like I said, it's not scary. And lastly, in our number one spot, we have the film Dead Alive. Again, another movie with multiple titles. This is also called Brain Dead. Now this movie came out in 1992 and was directed by Peter Jackson, the director of classic movies like Lord of the Rings or King Kong. But sadly, this movie does not live up to the standards of those other movies. This movie basically surrounds an overprotective and nagging mother who gets bitten by a Sumatran rat monkey creature. As a result, she turns into a zombie that kills and eats other members in the town. These town members then also become zombies that terrorize the town. Now, this plot isn't that bad, but it's also not that good. Like, there are a lot of zombie movies out there, but this one just lacks plot and mainly focuses on gore. In fact, it is said that this is one of the goriest movies ever made. It gets to the point where the gore doesn't even play any part to the movie. It's not scary, it's just over the top disgusting. Let me describe some of the gore scenes. You have the scene of alive organs wrapping around a character and trying to choke him. Then you got characters that are blood-soaked fighting zombies with someone else's severed leg. Then you got zombies being dismembered by a lawnmower and tons of blood and organs splashing everywhere constantly. If you can manage to get past the gore, there are a couple of comedic pieces intertwined in the movie. I know it's supposed to be like a slapstick horror, but it's just over the top. In fact, the gore takes away from the terrible acting, so you don't even focus on that. Now, the special effects are also terribly fake, which I mean, back then is kind of expected, but let me describe some of the scenes. There's a weird puppet baby that terrorizes some of the characters, which is just, it's so fake looking. And when the puppet isn't used, it literally looks like a man was running around with the baby's head on. that part made me laugh. But the funniest and worst scene of all is towards the end when the mother turns into this giant ogre type creature who's completely naked. She's just literally running around with everything exposed. It's ugh. This movie is definitely not scary. It's disgustingly gory and funny, but not in the way that the director hoped. Well, that's all I have for you for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I would love to hear in the comments one of the worst horror movies you've seen. As always, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to Top 5 and turn on the bell notification so you don't miss any videos. Bye! Where the werewolf man is just flailing his arms back and forth while getting shot at. You know, yeah. The voiceover is talking about how more people are becoming infected. The director of classic movies like Lord of the Rings or King Kong. But sadly, there's the man drilling again. But sadly, this... But sadly, he keeps drilling. But the funniest and... This movie is definitely not scary. It's just... Nope. Almost done there. Stop for 1 second. It's just disgustingly gore.